Okay, I'm going to be showing you how to make a lace ballet slipper, and I'm also kind of going to give you the guide on how you might want to do this without the lace, because the lace is going to be hard to do on any size, any loom, that kind of thing. So I'm going to kind of give you an idea about how to go in and work it up. Okay, and so I'll show you how the lacing's done and how it's going to show in the graph and that kind of thing. And what I've kind of already done, and I'm going to show you. I've already pretty much gone in and done my Kitchener bind on and done my wraps and turns. I'm using the 56 peg 4th inch gauge Cindy wood loom, and I started over here on my Kitchener cast on, and I wove back and forth, and then I did initial knit, and then I did another knit row, and instead of going all the way back here to do another knit row, I stopped here and did my first wrap and turn here. So after I do my knit row to get the weave set in, I do another knit row. Instead of going all the way back to here, I stopped just before here, which is just before the last peg, and I wrapped and turned, and I wrapped and turned down to 11 stitches. Okay, so how I got it to this point, if you want to do a simple version without the lace, and you want to try to calculate it on a loom that, say, might fit your foot better, because this, you want it almost a little smaller than your foot so that it doesn't slide off. So what you want to do is you want to do some calculations, and what I did was I took my peg number and I divided it in half by 2, and I get my number A, and it's 28 on my 56 peg. Okay, well, I take my 28 and then divide it by 2.5, and it rounds down to 11. Okay, and so 11 is going to be my number B, and 11 is going to be important because 11 is what I'm going to work myself down to on my wraps and turns to single stitches. Is I'm going to have 11 single stitches here. 11 is also going to be the number of stitches I bind off here to open this back up, where you'll start working flat. Okay, so the 11 stitches is going to be important for that. Okay, now if you're doing the lace, follow the rib stitch pattern I've showed for the lace, but if you're not following the lace pattern and you need to figure out, oh, and by the way, the 11 stands for back here too, unless you have a narrower heel and you have the drawn out mold for your foot, you can decrease it down to where you want it to. I think for me, because my heel is a lot narrower than my toe area, I decreased mine down to 9, but if you don't want to try to figure that out, just keep with the number B, which is here, here, and here. Okay, and you'll work it back up, but I'll tell you how to go about and do that. But that's where your number B is going to be. Okay, and what I chose to do, figuring out my rib stitch and how many rows I need to do after I finish my wrap and turn here, and how many I need to do here before I start my heel. And my formula goes like this. So for instance, I do the number of pegs divided by 3, and for this it's going to be 18.6, and for me, I'm going to round it up to the next 10, which will be 20. Okay, so that means that I'm going to do 20 rows after I finish my my wraps and turns, my toe here. I'm going to do 20 rows here, and then I'm going to do 20 rows here after I've done my bind off here. So that's a total of 40 rows, okay? And that's what number C is. So that tells you what you're doing here and here, okay? Well, now you need to figure out how many pegs you want to use for your rib stitch, which is through here, or how many rows you're going to do through there. Okay, and I'm doing my number A, which was 28, divided by 7. Okay, and that got me 4. Which means I'll be doing a garter stitch through here of purl 4 on one row, the next row knit 4, the next row purl 4. And so you're going to go back and forth to purling and knitting the 4 on the ends, okay, when you go to start knitting flat. And before you'll get there, you're going to want to take the last 4 rows of your first 20, and then you'll want to go in and take those 11 stitches and then add the 4 to the side that you'll be dealing with, and you'll do that for 4 rows, okay, and that'll add up. And then what you'll keep in mind is when you are getting done with the heel, which I'll show you how to continue doing this. This is a different kind of heel. You'll need to calculate in your last 4 rows that you'll need to do a rib stitch for before binding off. So that's what number D represents. Okay, so that's the formula. It shows up in the pattern. I will also be giving you a graph out of when you will start doing your lace. Okay, and when you start working from flat to in the round. And so I'll point that out, how you go about doing the round on the graph. And then after you bind off, this back section is all flat again. And on the graph, I only show to here, to just before the heel, because the heel doesn't really need a graph. And so it's mostly the toe if you're wanting to do this lace flower kind of pattern. But that is basically the formula. If you just want to make a simple one without the lace on any loom, that's how you're going to go about figuring that up. And so that's how you go about that. Now, I'm going to show you how to do the lace version. And if you are doing the plain version, then you will just add the wrap and turn that back in until you have no more. And then you can start working circularly. So you work the toe like you normally would any regular sock. The complication is when you get past this bind off is where it works differently as a sock, but still similar because of the heel. So I'm going to start working this back up, and then I'll show you how the graphing system will work for the lace. And you're going to have angles going, and that's going to be the direction you're going to be moving the stitches to. And then you're going to have a yarn over, and I'll show you how to do the yarn over, and then you're going to have a black dot, which means purl. Okay, and it's looking like I want to be able to add at least 13 wraps and turns back in before I start my lace. So what that means is I'm going to start with the peg I've finished, and I'm just going to flatten it over. And this is where you'll follow the graph. You'll see that it shows an angle out. And what that means is, for instance, your first angle shows up on this side. So you get that one in. Okay. And then you start with the same peg you finished with. And then you will work your way over and add the next wrap and turn in. You'll see this on the graph, and there will be a point where it makes sense where you're going to start adding back in, and you're going to start working up your lace. So what you'll want to do is pause the video and get up to where you have removed 13 wraps and turns, and you'll have, hold on, I'll tell you how many wraps and turns left. You're going to have 6 wraps and turns total on both combined. So there'll be a little more on this side than there will be on this side, but you want to have 6 total wraps and turns left between the different sides. So go ahead and pause the video and take out 13 wraps and turns and have basically 6 left, and then we will go from there, and I'll show you how to start understanding the lace. Okay, what we've just done is we've just added this wrap and turn here in, which is on our left side, and you can see that we'll be starting with the peg we finished, and you'll be seeing that you'll be running into the lace pattern starting before you add this last wrap and turn in over here. And what this angle here means is which way you're going to be taking that decrease, and you're going to be moving this stitch over here, and then you're going to knit the two together, and your yarn over is going to be just laying the yarn over the empty peg, knitting, and then you're going to move that stitch over to this direction because the angle's leaning that direction, and you're going to yarn over by laying the working yarn over it, and then you're going to knit those two together, and then you're going to go to the end and add the next wrap and turn in. Starting with the peg you finished, you'll notice on the yarn over you're going to purl those empty pegs. So I'm going to show you what that means. So we're going to start with the peg we just finished with. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're going to stop on stitch 9 before we go into doing our lace. So what we're going to do is we're going to knit over 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, now the next 2 pegs, you'll notice it had an angle that direction, which means you're going to skip that, pick that next stitch up and move it back 1. So you've taken and you move it back that direction like that angle there. Okay, then you're going to knit those 2 stitches together. The yarn over is simply laying the working yarn over and knitting the next peg. Okay, then you saw a decrease and the angle was that direction, which means you're going to go in, you're going to pick this up, this next stitch up, and you're going to move it over to the next peg in that direction. Okay, so whichever direction the angle's leaning, you're going to be moving it that direction. So you're going to do your yarn over by laying the working yarn over, and then you're going to knit both those together. Okay, and then you're just going to knit your way over. And toss both those loops over on the wrap and turn. Then here's where you're going to see those black dots over your yarn over. You're going to purl them. So you're going to knit your way over. And there is your yarn over. You'll see it looks a little funky compared to the rest. And you're going to purl it. Okay. And that puts a nice open space. Knit that one and then purl the yarn over. Okay. That really opens it up. and then knit to the next wrap and turn. That's how you're going to follow the lacing back and forth. From the graphing. Okay. And so basically what we've just done is these 2 stitches here. Okay. And so you're going to continue doing this lacing thing up until the wrap and turn are over. You don't have any more. At that point, you're going to start working circularly. And so you're going to be going around the back, which there's nothing. It's a basic knit. So you're going to go around the back, and then you're going to start following the graph over here. Once you hit your halfway mark, you're going to start following the graph from your stitch marker. Okay, that's the importance of that stitch marker. What I've done is I've counted 28 over, and I put a stitch marker on peg 29, so you know. You do that on any one of those, but that's where you know you're going to start. The graph is on your stitch marker, okay, and you work over to here, which is your last peg. Okay, and that's where your graph is when it comes to, I don't give around the back because around the back is a knit. So as soon as you don't see any more of those slants, then you're going to start doing around the back. So then you're going to start doing circular and go from here to here to here. Start the lace patterning if you see the row does that. Okay, and I'll show you what it means on the graph. Okay, for instance, this is our last wrap and turn that we're adding back in, and so at this point you're going to start working circularly. So it'll say 18. You're going to start working and going around the back. So you're going to go around the back here, and then you're going to start here. And so you'll be seeing on row 18 is where you're going to be starting on, and then you're going to work your way over following those instructions, and then bump your way up to row 19, knit the back half, come around and follow that, go up to row 20, knit the back half, and then follow row 20. So that kind of gives you an idea. If you're going to go on 18, you're going to knit the back half, follow 18 over here. So what you're going to do is you're going to follow 18 over here, and then you're going to follow it across like reading. That's the reason why I tend to do my knitting like I'm reading, because to me I am reading a pattern in my head. So that's what you're going to do. So you're going to go row 18, go up to row 19, knit around the back of the loom, come around, starting on your stitch marker, go across 19. So that's how that works when you start working circularly. And you're going to follow that pattern all the way up. As you can see, it gets real intricate, and you're going to follow it all the way up. And here's where you're going to see it start to change, and what those B's mean. It means you're binding off, and what all these clear white spaces are knits, and everything in between is going to be where you see the black dots or purls. So that gives you an idea of how to read this. And yes, you will have a few more stitches over here compared to over here, because it doesn't work up exactly evenly on both sides, but because you have this graph here, you can have an idea of what to go about. So go ahead and work the pattern from down here, which we just did this row here. We just did row 13. So the next row is just a knit, and then the next row is lacing, and then the next row is got purl to it, and then the next row is knit, and 18 is where you start circularly. So you're going to go around the back. You're going to start over here with your stitch marker and follow it that way. Go up to 19, go around the back, follow 19, there's a purl row. And so you're going to follow that circularly up, following the pattern until you get to row 40. So go ahead and pause the video and follow your graphing up until row 40, and then we will go from there, and I'll show you the complicated part of getting the bind offs and then starting working flat where you'll see these four, where you start a garter stitch for like 20 rows. So go ahead, pause the video, get to row 40, and then what we'll do is we'll go from there. Okay, I have completed my lacing, as you can see, up to the point where I'm fixing to bind off, and I've already gone in and knitted my way around. At this point, you can actually go in and go about tightening your Kitchener cast on, and there's our tail, so we'll need to start at the other side, and then you want to shove that back, and you're going to start pulling. And remember that the tightening of the Kitchener cast on is like hewing. It's like a heartbeat. Down, up in the direction that you pull the next set of stitches. So the next one's going to be pulling from the bottom. Or it's like a mountain. Several mountains going up and down is where you're pulling from. So the next one's going to be pulling from the bottom, and the next one's going to be pulling from the top, and the next one's going to be pulling from the bottom. And I'll tell you right now, this yarn's easy to see because it's multicolored. I'm pulling from the top, going to the next one, pulling from the bottom, going to the next one, pulling from the top. And you're going to do this all the way to the other side. Until you have it tightened all the way across. Okay, so you'll complete that all the way across, and it gets a little more complicated over here, but keep in mind your pattern of pulling from the top and then going down, pulling from the bottom like a mountain. Okay, so you'll finish tightening that up, and in the meantime I'm going to go back to finishing up and following the chart. Okay, so we've gotten up to the point where our picture is we've already knitted our way around the back, and we're going to be working our way on the front. So let's look at our chart real quick. Okay, so we're on row 41, and you see that there are 5 empty boxes. You're going to knit over 5, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. Then you see these bees, these are your bind offs. So you're going to bind off 11. Then you're going to, when you bind off, you're going to end here, and that's a knit, but you're naturally going to be placing the last stitch from your bind off on there, so you don't actually have to worry about this stitching here. So that the next one is a purl, and then knit your way over. Okay. After that, you're going to go up to row 42, knit your way around the back, and you're going to start working flat from here. Okay, so what you've just seen me do is you've just seen me change up a little bit. So what this means is when you're done with this row here and you bind out off your 11, you're going to go up to row 42, and you're going to knit your way around over to the last stitch. Okay, then when you get started, you're going to purl 4, knit your way around back to 42, and purl 4. Then you're going to go up to then you're going to go row 43, and you're going to knit your way around all the way. So it's going to kind of get off. You're going to be taking 41 and knitting your way around, I'm going to show you how this works so that this makes more sense to you. So let's go in and show you how this works. On my graph, it said for me to knit 5. Okay, so I'm going to knit 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it says to purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. Now we're going to do 11, but we're going to bind off 11. So you're going to knit those 2. Take that back 1, knit 1. You're going to get to where you have 11 empty pegs. That is your goal. Okay, because this is our last one and we're not going to really need to knit it, we just want to move it over. Okay, we're going to count, make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, and at that point, that was that section that had the empty square, which was a knit, which is this one right here. And then you're going to do 1 purl. And then you're going to knit the row to finish. So this is where it can get complicated, reading the guide, okay? But what we want to do is we want to knit our way over to the other side, okay? We've now went to row 42, and we're going to knit our way to the other side. Okay, so we're just going to straight out knit all the way to our stitch marker. This is the back. It's always going to be knitted, and we're going to be working flat at this point. Okay. And the stitch marker is where it shows up on the graph. Okay. And it says you're going to knit 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Now, to me personally, this is going to be your starting point from here on out, back and forth. Okay, and you're going to be purling 4, knitting your way around, and then purling the last 4 over here. Then you're just going to knit your way around. Okay. And that's where it can get complicated on the pattern, and where you saw me change it up to where you move up to 42 and you'll see a knit, and then you knit back, and then you go up a row and you purl back around. And that's where it can get complicated, but it doesn't have to be that complicated. So this is your new starting point, and I may actually make a note of it in my graph where this is the new starting point, so that you know that you're just going to, this makes it easy that you're just going to purl when you're going from right to left. You're going to purl the 4 on the ends, and then when you're going from this side back around, so when you're going from left to right, you're going to just knit. So when you're going from this side to this side, remember to purl the 4 on the end, and then when you're coming back around, you're just going to knit, okay? And you're going to do that for 20 rows. If you are working from the formula, again, you've just done, say, 20 simple rows here, and then you've bound it off the same you did as the toe, and then you're going to do your garter stitch on the ends over here, whatever your number was, and then however many rows that you did here circularly, you're going to do up here circularly, okay? So remember, it may get a little strange on the graph, but what you're going to do is you're going to be purling 4. So you're gonna purl 4 going this direction. Then you're just going to knit your way around. There's your last 4, and because we're coming from this side, we know we're going to do purl 4 on this side. Now we're going from left to right, and now you're just going to knit. So you're just going to follow this patterning right here. Okay, now we're going from right to left. Remember, we're going to purl on our ends. Okay. Again, I will try to make this as clear as possible on my graph so that this is not as confusing. But this is our new starting point, and when you're going from right to left, you purl the 4 pegs on the end, and when you're going from left to right, you're going to just straight out knit. And you're going to do that for basically 20 rows, and then we're going to start on the heel, or however many, if you're doing the formula, however many rows were in here, you're going to do however many rows that is. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and complete those rows where you're doing you're going from right to left, you purl the 4 on the ends, and then when you go from left to right, you knit. So again, do that for 20 rows, and then we will go on to the heel, and that means we're really close to done. Okay, I have just finished my 20 rows through here. As you can see, there's my 4 stitches that are garter stitched on the edge and everything. And at this point, I'm ready to start on the heel. Okay. So, just to get you prepped, it's the same as doing the toe, but just to get you prepped, you'll start off with purling 4. And then I'm going to knit my way over until just before the peg here, this different colored one. So I'm going to stop there. Okay, stopping here. And here's where we're going to start working the heel between just before the stitch marker and here, which is your starting point originally. So we're going to wrap and turn, and we're going to knit our way over until just before the peg before stitch marker on the other side. Okay, so this is peg 28, well that's peg 29, so we're going to knit that one, and we're going to wrap and turn. At this point, we're going to follow the heel as normal, and if you're going to do it by the formula I give you, then you're going to wrap and turn down to the 11 single stitches, just like you did with the toe. If you're wanting to customize the heel and having a narrower heel, then you'll take your paper mold that you have and figure in how many single stitches you want to get down to. And for me, my heel is narrower than my the front of my foot. So I personally go down to 9, but you'll follow the formula. It'll be number B to get you down to that number. So go ahead and pause the video and get it worked down to the single stitches and then worked back up. And I'll show you just before the last wrap and turn to be tossed over, so that I can show you how to continue the heel, because the heel is a little different, and I'll show you how. Okay. So what you'll notice is from like here up, it looks like a normal heel, and then it suddenly does this. It's because we do our heel like usual, and then we start adding the next peg back in on each side slowly. And what this does, you'll notice, it gives a little bit more lift to the back of the heel. And so when it's worn, it's going to sit higher on the back of the heel than if I had just done the heel itself and then bind it off. So to do the extension here that I've done is important, as the way it will fit onto the foot will be beneficial. It's going to sit higher on the back of the heel, which will prevent it from slipping. So what you want to do is you want to do the heel just like we showed you on the toe. There's no lacing, so you do the heel just like the toe, simple as that. And then I will show you how to complete the heel so that it makes sense as to how we're extending it. So go ahead and pause the video and complete your heel, just the heel from like here over, and then I'll show you the additions to finish up the sock. So we're not far from done. So go ahead and do your heel, and then I'll come back and show you the rest. Okay, I've done my heel, as you can see here, and you'll see that I'm fixing to toss over my last wrap and turn here. Okay, here's where I start adding back up from these pegs that are on the sides here. So I'm going to wrap and turn that next peg and knit over to my stitch marker on the other side, literally. Because this is my last wrap and turn on this side, I know that I need to knit this wrap at the actual stitch marker peg. But to make sure I keep up with where I'm at, I'm going to wrap the next peg. Okay, wrap and turn the next peg and knit my way back over. Okay. I'll be slowly adding back in a peg at a time on both sides. And then you're going to need to calculate how many pegs are left to get you, say, 4 rows of a rib stitch. And then there's your wrap and turn that you did. And you're going to toss that over. Okay, then you're going to wrap and turn that next peg and knit over and add that one here in, and then wrap and turn the next. And you're going to continue this until you know you're going to need to calculate in 4 rows of a rib stitch. And keep in mind, this is 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, and 4 rows. Okay, so basically you're going to be looking at 2 pegs on each side left. Keep that in mind. Okay, each peg is considered a row. So I know that when I get down to a wrap and turn on this peg and this peg, I'm going to start a rib stitch. But what I'll do is tell you to pause the video and get it up to a certain point where you think it is, and you can actually pause. You know, you can actually hold on and see what I do if you want. But I'm going to get myself worked up to those last 4 rows of a rib stitch, and then I'll show you how to finish off the sock. Okay, and I'm ready to be doing pretty much the last 4 rows, and you'll see that I've basically wrapped and turned just before the last peg, and then I'm fixing to wrap and turn this peg here. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to knit, purl my way over to the other side. Okay, we know we knitted that last peg, so we're going to wrap and turn, and we're going to start with a knit and work our way over. And this is row 2. And we're finishing with a purl. Wrap and turn, and you're going to start with a purl, and this is going to be row 3. Okay. Because there's no wrap and turns, we're going to skip that one. And we know we purled it. We're going to know we're going to start with a knit and finish our 4th row. Okay. And because we were 1 peg off, because this is the extra, you're just going to knit it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to bind off. Okay. So you're going to do a regular bind off. You're not going to do anything special. So knit the first 2. Move that 2nd stitch over. Toss the bottom loop over. Move over. Knit the next stitch. Move it over. Toss the bottom loop over. Move over. Knit the next stitch. And you're going to do this until you get it done. And you weave in the end, and you are done. This is how you go about making the lacy ballet sock. And that's it. That's how it's done.